Hi, everybody. Welcome to NADA Miami. Thank you so much for having us. This is going to be a conversation about upstate New York, Upstate of Mind, and here I have some incredible colleagues with me. We have Nora from Storm King. I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves properly. Jayne from JDJ, and Heather from NADA. My name is Helen Toomer from STONELEAF Retreat and Upstate Art Weekend. Maybe before we get started, if everybody could just introduce themselves quickly and kind of what you do and where.
I'm Nora Lawrence. I'm the Artistic Director and Chief Curator at Storm King Art Center in New Windsor, New York, so a little bit further south than most of the Hudson Valley other places we'll be talking about. And I live between New York City and Monroe, New York, in the Hudson Valley. So, on to you.
My name is Jayne Johnson, and I'm the founder of JDJ, which is a gallery with 2 locations. We started in Garrison, New York, in the lower Hudson Valley, and opened a space in Tribeca in 2021. And I live next to Storm King.
I'm Heather Hubbs. I'm the executive director of NADA. So I run this organization. There's many things that we do besides the art fair here in Miami, but I am based in New York City, but we have been producing things upstate since 2000. Well, not every year, but we've done some things in Hudson, and more recently some stuff in the Catskills during Upstate Art Weekend. So yeah, we're exploring the region.
Thank you, guys. Also, we should say thank you to Sophie Landres for at River Valley Arts Collective. She was supposed to be our moderator here today, but she's not here, so hello, Sophie. Right, and I should say that STONELEAF Retreat, I am based in Kingston in upstate New York, and started Upstate Art Weekend as a way to connect the arts organizations in the region, in the Hudson Valley of New York. And really, we're here to talk about what everybody does, and also to invite everybody to come to upstate New York, because it is fabulous. So my first question is, what attracted you to come and live, work in the Hudson Valley, and how does your organization contribute to the region's art ecosystem?
I grew up in New York City and going to the Hudson Valley my whole life. So that means, one, that I went to Storm King as a kid forever and loved it, but also that I've always really had an appreciation for the area. My father has done a lot of environmental activism in the region, and that's been something really meaningful to me. And when I had been working in New York City, and an opportunity came up with a job at Storm King, and it made a lot of sense to me to combine kind of environmental issues with art, and also thinking about art outside the walls of gallery spaces, but really kind of in an experimental and specific way. So I came to Storm King with those thoughts in mind. And we are, just to say also, we're a 500-acre outdoor museum, sculpture park with small indoor spaces as well. And we have a residency program that we collaborate on with Shandaken Projects. And we also do a lot of outreach in the region, both with other arts institutions and adult programs, but then also with children's programs. And I feel like that's one particular way that we really contribute to the ecosystem. We do a lot of work with schools who we call our partner schools over many, many years. So students will be engaged in a Storm King education at 4 different schools in nearby Newburgh, New York, in kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, and then in 4th grade they'll kind of start teaching the younger kids about Storm King. And then we also have different partnerships with middle schools and high schools, including one where we just invite the kids for a free summer camp for 2 weeks a year. So combining art and nature is something we're trying to do more of.
That's great, thank you. I think all of our kids will want to come and hang out at Storm King soon. Jayne, my love.
I actually grew up in the Hudson Valley. I'm from Troy, New York, which is about 3 hours north of New York City. And when I worked in the art world in New York City for many years, and when I wanted to open my own project, I really wanted to do it in the Hudson Valley. This relationship between art and nature is so powerful and memorable for me. And I also think that what's incredible about the region in general is that it just offers new feelings of potential and possibility and ways to sort of like reimagine what you can do. New York is an incredible city for art, obviously, but when you have space and when you have this kind of new location, you can think about being really creative and experimental with what you're doing. I was originally living in New York and operating the gallery Upstate since 2018, and in 2020 I moved up permanently to the area. And like I said, I basically am neighbors with Storm King, which is really an amazing experience. And my program brings international artists to the area, but I also work with a number of artists who are from the Hudson Valley, and several of whom actually are really referencing the region in the work itself. Like Athena Latoka, whose recent show this year literally used materials from the landscape surrounding the gallery and the work. And then Daniel Giordano is an artist I'm doing an exhibition with next year, who's from Newburgh, and his work there is primarily sculpture, and it's really kind of like using materials that reference the sort of post-industrial decay and resurgence and immigration waves of people to the area kind of throughout history. So I would say that I have the fortune to have a program that is bringing new work to the area and then also kind of highlighting voices of really strong artists who are from the area itself.
So as I mentioned earlier, Nada did a show in Hudson in 2011 and 2012. It was at the Basilica, and we called it Nada Hudson. So it was kind of our first sort of attempt to do something in the region, and it was great. It was, I think we didn't mean for it to be treated like an art fair, but it got treated like an art fair, and that was kind of something that we weren't looking, that we didn't want that, and it was, the sort of model that we were doing wasn't quite working financially, so we took a pause on that. But we have a number of members that are based upstate. STONELEAF is a member, JDJ is a member, Storm King is a member. We have lots of other gallery members and institutional members in the region, and obviously during COVID, a lot of people migrated upstate. Some stayed and are still there. Others, came back. Some are now going back and forth. And then when Helen started the Upstate Art Weekend, we thought, it'd be nice to sort of like get involved as a partner and really help promote it and promote our members who were participating. And so the first year we did, we were just kind of there as a promotional partner. We did some online programming with the members that were participating, and then a few of us from my team went up and went to the events and tried to show up just by being there. And then there was a new art center that was opening in, what year was that? Called Foreland. And what year did Foreland open?
2021.
So in 2021, Foreland opened, and the woman who founded the art center had invited us before COVID. She had come to Nada and said, I'm, starting this thing, and I would really love to do something with Nada, and then COVID hit, and, the conversation obviously was paused for quite some time. But it resurfaced in the summer, early spring, or in the spring of 2021, and we decided to take her up on her offer to do something, and she kind of offered to give us the building and let us do a show in it that would launch the space. And so we really tried hard to do something that had artists coming from outside of New York, but we really wanted to have a lot of the artists in the region in the show as well. So, and I think we did a pretty good job. I think it was pretty balanced in terms of having artists from the region and having artists not from the region there. And it was hugely successful. It was only up for 2 days, which felt like a huge feat because it was quite a big show. I mean, Jesse Greenberg actually curated it for us, and I don't think we could have done it without his help because we were just coming off our project in Governor's Island. But I think what it really showed was that there was a real appetite for art in the region. And people, I mean, many people were asking about prices, which was surprising to us. I mean, we weren't really prepared for that. I feel embarrassed to say that, but we just weren't expecting it. And so it's really kind of, sparked an interest for us to sort of return and do it again and maybe have it up a little longer. And maybe I don't know if we would call it an art fair, but I think it would definitely have more of a commercial aim to it now that we know there's an appetite for it.
Yeah, that's really, really good to know because, I'm always trying to get you to come upstate. And for you guys to know that Upstate Art Weekend is happening this year, July 21st to 24th. It started in 2020 with 23 participants, and last year there were over 145. So this year, it's turned into quite a beautiful beast. Again, the appetite, like really thinking about that there are a lot. I mean, there are such an incredible amount. There's such a history of artists in the region for centuries, and artists up there who like to be hidden and work away, and now people that are moving there. So it's great, and I'm so grateful that you're all part of Upstate Art Weekend, and we want people to come up and patronize everybody that's up there.
Can you tell people about STONELEAF?
Oh, thank you, Nora.
You came in as moderator. It's not fair because you have other things to tell us about too.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so STONELEAF Retreat is basically it's an extension of our home just outside of Kingston, New York, which is an artist residency that is focused on women and families. It started in 2017, and so far I did the numbers, and we have housed 44 artists, 9 family residencies, and welcome back 12 alumni. So it's just such a gift to be able to share the land and our space with artists. I was actually looking at Klaus, I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, Klaus von Nixenstans. Say it.
Klaus von Nixgagen.
Thank you, appreciate that. They show an artist, Joy Curtis. They have an incredible sculpture there, and she was one of our artists in residence, and in partnership with the River Valley Arts Collective that Sophie, our moderator, is part of. And we have an incredible piece of hers outside in the woods. And so we're very, very lucky at STONELEAF. We have some site-specific works from our artists in residence that are on the land, and we're open during Upstate Art Weekend and hopefully some other exciting events to come up. So thank you for asking me that. Another question that I get all the time is Hudson Valley versus the city. I personally don't prescribe to the rivalry, but I wondered what your thoughts were on it.
I think that what makes the Hudson Valley so wonderful is its proximity to the city. It's not really about not being a part of the city or being alienated from it, but it's the fact that we're so close and we're able to sort of take in all of that. And for example, there are artists, from Frank Stella and Martin Puryear and people who are very much not thought of as Hudson Valley artists, but because we're so close, there's so much exchange. But there is literal space and a sense of openness. So I think also being close to the city, what that ends up kind of meaning, I think, is that the art scene in the region is not provincial. It's actually very international. I mean, there are incredible, very established artists who have been living up there, and established galleries who have been opening there, like Jack Shainman, Alexander Gray, and the galleries who are the kind of younger and the more sort of emerging galleries that are in the region, like myself, or like Mother Gallery or September or Elijah Wheat. they're doing really cutting edge programming. It's not necessarily about a provincialness, and I think it is that proximity to New York that actually makes it so interesting and so special. The fact that you can just hop on the train and be anywhere in a really short amount of time is pretty incredible.
We have thought about that in really practical terms, also just in terms of what our kind of market is or what our audience is, as being much broader than just kind of the immediate, like 20 miles around Storm King, but being, immediately New York City, and then of course nationally and internationally beyond that. But it matters in terms of both being able to present things that feel like collaborations with other institutions that are in New York City. So the space that you're talking about, Jayne, just being something that we can offer, and we've partnered with other institutions and kind of said like, okay, we'll do something larger as they do something that more compact, but we can kind of play these shows off each other. And then also, just to say, we're doing a commission with Martin Puryear now, who has been talking about his work with us as being the most accessible to the widest audience that he'll have, because it's a very large, major outdoor permanent work that he's creating that's going to be really the greatest work that people can see in a major, larger metropolitan area. So I think that's great, and it still does get a lot of kind of people.
I wasn't really aware that there was a competition. I guess was it because it was seen as not as serious if you were living and working upstate? That's what but I feel like that must be fading now, especially after COVID. It's just you can be anywhere doing anything basically, and it should be just as important as if you're doing. And also the city's so expensive, and it's getting harder and harder for creatives of any type to live there. So, I just don't see how that could really last very long.
Yeah. Agreed. How do you guys think the presence of arts institutions, organizations, and artists impact the region? Just a small question for you guys.
We were talking recently to one of the members of our education committee, whose name is Kevin White, and he runs the Boys and Girls Club of Newburgh, as well as Newburgh Performing Arts Center. So we partner with him on these projects and work with the same students and kids that he's working with, but also he has this other performing arts center as well. But one way that's been really influential on me that he talks about that is even just the fact of the permission to get involved, or the access, or having an option to easily do something like go make art or go see art or get involved in art it's not just kind of towards art, but it's almost like it opens up a whole slew of other kind of feelings of being permitted. That's really important, I think, for people everywhere, right? The more you feel like you should be in a space, the more you're going to feel confident in all sorts of ways within your life. So I think anywhere, certainly the Hudson Valley, but anywhere, art is critical and is kind of that type of passage.
I think what's really exciting, just from the gallery standpoint, is how much sort of cutting edge art that we might think is we could only see in New York is actually being shown right now in the Hudson Valley. When I have people coming to visit the Ice House in Garrison, and they're seeing artists who went to like Susan Weil, who studied at Black Mountain College with Joseph Albers, and they're like, I can't believe I'm seeing this here. It really kind of blows people's minds. Or Reggie Madison, who's such a legend, who shows with September Gallery and Kinderhook. I think it really has, what's been happening up there over the last 5 years, especially just speaking from the commercial side of things, it's really has just blown away people's expectations of what they think they're going to see. The art world and the gallery world in the Hudson Valley is not that sort of vacation type of art gallery that you might imagine. There really is a lot of exciting, just really dynamic programming that's happening. So that's been really wonderful to bring to the audience there.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, one of the reasons why I started Upstate Art Weekend was kind of selfishly to also know what was going on in the region. Like, who were my peers? Where was everybody? Everything is a 45-minute drive away, which is still great. But so I just really wanted to be able to discover kind of what was on my doorstep. And that's something with Upstate Art Weekend, is that we're trying to reach, locals and visitors alike, right? So I want people to come up who are coming up from the city or down from Albany or in from Chicago or in from Miami, and come visit and then connect, because you can never see everything in one weekend, and then come back and back and back. And then also to realize that a lot of the things that you can see up there are free, like the galleries, like these incredible shows you can go for free. Storm King also has free community days and stuff like that. So I think that that's also really, really good to know.
Yes. I think also so I've worked at Storm King a little more than a decade now, and when I started, the conversations were so much more about kind of bucolic space and beauty, very, very specifically. Yeah. And that's there, and I love that, and that's not going away, and that's great. But I think there's also been so many more conversations, both culturally, environmentally, about all of the different reasons for open space, or histories of open spaces, or histories of the Hudson Valley in particular, and the land, both geologically, but also in terms of inhabitants and people who have come through this area. And so it feels like cultural conversations and kind of conversations about open space are really in a place right now where they're the same thing. Yeah. And it wasn't always as obvious. I mean, when we did a show about climate change in 2018, and it got a great reception, but also as I was planning it, I'd talk to some people and I'd get kind of this like, oh great, it's like, well, and people sort of saying like, well, who's working on that? And it's like, everyone is working on that. That's like, but it's so much, it's just more and more relevant as the world is changing to kind of have this embodiment of what we're looking for, and kind of being in these spaces and having these reminders of kind of the stakes of the conversations that we're having.
Yeah. And also to get back to that bucolic, but for our mental health, like I feel like the space that we're so lucky to be stewarding at these moments, right? During the early months of the pandemic, that's really why, again, I started the event, because I was like, oh my goodness, I miss art, I miss people. We have space, we can gather outside safely. And that was in August of 2020, and so many people had not left their homes, and I spoke to Victorio at Magazzino, and he said that because Magazzino had this insanely brilliant you had to wear these kind of buzzers, so if you were within 10 feet of anybody else in their glorious space, it just buzzed. So they were super smart, super safe. And so they had so many people coming to visit them, driving from their apartments straight there and visiting. So it was interesting as well about being able to get away, provide a safe space, and be able to breathe and take in the incredible arts that's there as well. Okay, another question for you. Big question. Why should people visit and patronize the arts upstate?
I think upstate, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but it just offers something different. It offers a different perspective. You're not going to have the same gallery going experience in New York. Going to galleries in New York is amazing, but guess what? You've got 15 galleries on your list. You kind of pay attention to the first 2 shows that you see, then you're looking at your phone, then you're thinking about where to get some coffee. You're sort of halfway checked out. When you're upstate, you're really kind of present, and you're paying attention in a way that is totally different. And that was why I wanted to open the gallery up there in the first place. I just sort of, after kind of being in the New York gallery world for a while, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to just kind of slow it all down for myself, but also for people that are coming to visit. And I think also particularly when you're combining that nature and art experience, you just feel really like in your body and very like just conscious of like where you are and what you're looking at and what you're thinking about. And it's just a completely different, and frankly can be a more memorable experience. And I think that that's something, people have that when they go to Storm King, and they have that when they go to Dia. And part of that is just about kind of like getting out of your, scroll zone and just kind of taking pictures of things and getting into just actually like experiencing something.
Yeah. I'm just going to piggyback off that quickly because I was thinking about STONELEAF. So our residencies are 2 weeks long. And I remember when I first started it, a gallerist said to me, he was like, scoff. They were like, that's not a proper residency. Like 2 weeks isn't long enough. And I was like, well, we're supporting emerging artists. Most of them work. 10 days is the average national holiday. And I was like, and when you're upstate, a day is like 3 days. It's like, it's long. Like you slow down and are able to like take it in. And that's what I always love about it. And every time Eric, my husband, and I were driving up to find somewhere, we both immediately got more chilled out. I've also been reading about forest bathing in Japan a lot, and just saying, you should check that out. It's amazing. Sorry, Heather, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say that I think that supporting or exploring, if not supporting, art scenes anywhere outside of a major hub is always like it's a good thing to do. My brother lives in Maine, and I go up there every twice a year, every year, and I'm slowly like learning what the art scene is in the Portland area and beyond. And there's a vibrant art scene there, and it's great to discover that. So I don't know. I guess I just feel like, Upstate's big, and there's a lot up there. But I would like to think that, and I do think people are, again, like, luckily it seems like at least in the art world, we're becoming more diverse and we're being more open-minded. There was a talk earlier today when they were talking about how institutions are buying things that they never would have bought 10 years ago, and I think it's kind of the same thing when you're looking at art in a region. People are much more open-minded about that and that being serious anywhere, and good things happening in places you wouldn't know about, but it doesn't mean it's not good.
Yeah, I guess I just keep thinking about alternative models. Even visiting studio spaces that are completely different than they're able to be in a metropolitan area, or different art spaces. Yeah, just being able to do things a little bit differently. I think absolutely kind of taking your time and having a full day devoted to this usually, right? So I think that's important too.
Well, maybe we should open up questions. If anybody has any questions for us. And if not, you will... Oh, hello, we have one. Yeah, Dear Beacon have been part of Upstate Art Weekend since the beginning. They're always a glorious partner. I would recommend that everybody visit them. I'm really good at itineraries, so look out for Upstate Art Weekend. There's going to have a lot of itineraries on there, and Dear will be included.
We've partnered with them directly also, not recently on a show, but there was a Silhouette exhibition that kind of outdoors happened at Storm King, and indoors on a large scale happened at Dia Beacon, so that was nice. Yeah.
And that's another thing about Upstate is the collaboration, right? There is no, again, that's another reason why I love like what we're doing is like we can work together. There's no kind of like competition. Magazino in Manitoga did an incredible collaborative exhibition, and I think collaboration is key, right? So maybe that's where we should end. Collaboration is key. Oh, another question. Hello.
If, like, especially with COVID, people moving from New York upstate, like, is there this sense, like, somebody like, oh, I'm from New York, or I'm from elsewhere, I'm just going to move upstate, open a gallery, and sort of, like, be a transplant, or, like, not consider the community? Do you feel that is happening at all, or do you feel like there's an effort to, like, if you're a gallery space or an art space, or you are trying to also actively engage the community?
Yeah, I can take that one. I mean, for STONELEAF, when we first opened, I say opened, it's our house. Like when we first invited people to come over, when the residents were there, we went all the way up and down our road and put letters in all the mailboxes to invite the neighbors. We put postcards everywhere. Like we wanted. We wanted to invite everybody. We wanted it to be an open space. And so many of our neighbors came, and apparently our house was kind of like it was like a second or third home that had sat empty. You know, it was only activated like 1 month out of the year. So it was a really, really good way for us to get together, like super grassroots. So yeah, I think it's important, but there's always that. There's always othering. And it's always complex. But I think, you know, for me, I'm always trying to work with the local communities and not, you know, exclude anybody, because fundamentally we're all working on the same thing, which is supporting artists, supporting the arts. And what's the expression I always get wrong? Something about tides and all boats. Say it.
A high tide raises all ships.
Thank you.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
Collaboration.
Both of them.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I like that phrase. I always forget what it is, but it's a good one.
It's really good. Hi. Go on, plug away.
I am very excited about the Martin Puryear at Storm King.
Yes.
He is one of the most incredible artists, period, full stop. And I can't believe that for some reason, like, I mean, it's the most perfect artist to be at Storm King, but also someone that I never would have thought about to be at Storm King. I mean, I'm going to do a shameless plug for Storm King, even though I don't live there, but I go all the time. And what's really incredible about the programming lately is that you guys have really tried to just include like other voices and people that, you know, historically are maybe left out of that conversation about monumental outdoor sculpture or minimalism. I think, you know, seeing more diversity in some of the artists that are being shown there has been really exciting. And yeah, so that's something, and that'll probably open in May-ish.
That's now opening in September.
Okay.
But we're gonna have basically it's you know, I'm saying this to probably a large audience, but it's underway. It's something that you can kind of, you know, you can peer through the gate and see it. And it's been such a joy. Sorry, let me just 1 second on working with Martin Puryear. It's unbelievable. He's the smartest, most dedicated, incredible person, and he, you know, I'll get a text from somebody on our visitor services team at 6:30 on a Tuesday after the sun's gone down, and they're like, I think Martin Puryear just got here. Can I let him in? And it's like, yes, always let him in. But, you know, he's just so involved in this project that's really a really major piece that's being laid in brick. Yeah. And so it's really about craft. It's really, you know, about this very specific industry and technique. Yeah. But we have this kind of wonderful, passionate team working on it, and going up and seeing it, you know, in every stage of being built has been just absolutely meaningful. So it's going to be great come September, which is what we decided with Martin is going to be the time when the grasses will be as he wants them. The project will be kind of grown in and ready to go. So it's on a hill in our North Woods now. It's being created on site. So it's not that it's something that's not there yet at all, but it is coming up a bit later. Yeah.
I have a quick question. Is Buffalo considered upstate, or is that like Canada?
Controversial
So far?
topic.
I bring it up just because the Albright Knox is reopening in May, and that's they've been under closed for 3 years, and Stanley Whitney was supposed to be the opening. I don't know if that's still the case, but if that, I mean, that'll be fantastic. I mean, it's further up, but yeah.
Totally. And also I should plug, if you look at Upstate Art Weekend, there's a list of participants from last year, and you can click on there and see what they've got going on. A lot of them are based up there, have incredible exhibitions all the time, and we also have a Google map which you can customize and make your own. So people have been using that ever since the fair, and we've had the fair since the show, and had over 250,000 views. So it's a good resource to use. All right, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Nada, for having us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.